Well, I think he chose to depart rather than being pushed out. I mean, you know, he didn't have a gun put to his head. In fact, the day we tabled our report on a Saturday, and then on the Sunday at the Federal Executive press conference, as I recall, he welcomed the report and said, you know, we're a party that looks at ourselves.
It's probably because he didn't think that it would lead to his departure, timely departure.
You know, look, I led the party in, I guess, 2 national elections and 2 local government elections. And in every election, the party got more votes than the previous election. And that is a very key test of the leader's efficacy. So if the party goes backwards by 475,000 votes, that is a leadership call, if you like, not just of the leader, but of the CEO and the chairman and so on.
Do you think he should take the blame?
Well, I think...
I mean, everyone says the buck stops with the leader, so he must, you know...
I don't know, it was just a loss of support. I think there were other issues embedded in the leadership which were problematic. That was the decision-making. I mean, a lot of the decision-making in the party, and you know, I'm not here to say X was responsible, Y, was very poor. I mean, one of the factors that we found, not because, you know, we wrote it, but because it came back to us from hundreds of submissions, was that the handling of the so-called De Lille saga was poor. Well, it clearly was poor. I mean, 2 weeks before the election, my wife, who, you know, has been married to me for 20 years and been involved in politics along my side, said to me, can you explain to me, Tony, in a short sentence, why Patricia de Lille was removed as mayor of Cape Town? Well, I couldn't explain to her in 1 sentence. I could give her a whole lot of stuff. So I imagined if my wife thought that, you know, what most people who not really involved in politics at all would have made of that. And that was clear inside the party, that the processes were poorly executed. I'm not talking about the merits or the demerits of her mayoralty. And people had a very fuzzy view of how that happened and why it happened.
The way it was handled.
Yes, and the complete sort of uncertainty of the result and the back and forth and the litigation. It was a complete mess. So I think that was a big factor, because the party had quite correctly positioned itself as a competent, well-managed and rule-of-law-bound party. And perhaps that saga suggested that there was a difference between what it claimed and how it handled matters. And there were other such matters. But
by the way, I mean, the report you co-authored also mentions the Helen Zille tweets.
Yeah, I think that was a factor in the decline of the party's support. And once again, it was, you know, it led to an obscure result, because on the one hand, she apologized, on the other hand, she carried on. And, you know, we didn't really deal with that except to flag it as a specific issue, because by then it had become a matter of almost history rather than currency. But once again, you know, I think you've got to have a position. The position has got to be based on the facts. And there were other tweet matters that caused the party a lot of trouble. You know, the Ashwin Willemse tweet, I recall, was a big factor with a lot of people. You know, not that, how do you rush to a judgment about something when you don't have the facts? Or Schweizer Reinicke and the teacher. So there were, in fact, social media, you know, is deeply destructive of reasoned political debate for reasons that were apparent. So I think it's got to be treated by senior politicians, whoever they are, whether you're the leader or the premier, with the utmost caution.
How would you have handled it? Let's take both the Patricia de Lille and the Helen Zille sagas.
Well, you know, I was thinking about that for you. I stood down as leader of the party in 2007.
You've told me before you don't want to rule from the grave.
No, but
I'm keen to know.
No, but let me tell you something else about the year 2007, which is very instructive. There was no Facebook. Facebook only happened after I was leader. Twitter was a year or two away. So I led a political party in South Africa in the modern era, absent of any social media. So I think you've got to be very cautious. I would actually, if I was still the leader, I would hand over my Twitter account, which is currently under the governance only of Tony Leon, but doesn't really matter because I'm not the leader of the opposition, to a media professional. So you can use it as an information or propaganda tool without, being acting in the heat of the moment. What I would always do and try to do is to establish the facts. Look, I can't comment about the Helen Zille tweet because I really wasn't involved. And as I say, when I was the leader, there was no social media. But I did, in 2001, fire, or cause the resignation, of the mayor of Cape Town at the time, Peter Marais, who ironically joined the National Party, ANC, and then today is in the Freedom Front. So politics is a very strange thing. But, there we took a decision as the party. We didn't change our minds. There was a lot of disruption in the city of Cape Town, 2001. And he was removed as the mayor on my request. And we had a procedural issue which we handled wrongly. So we lost a court case, won, but it was then over. He resigned and he'd gone. So from sending him a letter saying, I think it's the best interest party that you step down as mayor, to his departure was 1 month. The de Lille saga, for reasons forced and unforced, went on for 18 months. Now, 1 month's bad publicity, or bad management, if you like, is survivable. 18 months is very difficult. And this saga just went on and on and on. And I think one of the issues which came to the fore was that it was dealt with in an inconsistent basis. One moment this was happening, then that was tried.
Whose fault was it?
Well, once again, it's the leadership's fault because, the leader's got to take responsibility.